afternoon. The August 11th, 2020 board workshop regarding the sales surtax is now in session. Pam, roll call, please.
Mrs. Belford?
Present.
Ms. McDougall?
Present.
Mr. Susan?
Present.
Mrs. Deskovich? And Mrs. Campbell?
Present.
Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Sue Han, Assistant Superintendent of Facilities Services and Superwoman, if I may say, will be providing us with a presentation. Following the conclusion and subsequent discussion, the workshop will be recessed and the board will enter into a closed session regarding the security aspects of the sales surtax. Following the conclusion of that meeting, the board will reassemble to publicly adjourn the workshop. Ms. Han.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to try to talk through my mask. Hopefully everyone can hear me. And I'm really excited to be here today. This has been a long time coming. We've, of course, obviously known about the sunsetting of the current sales surtax and the good work that we've been able to do with that program. But really the idea of continuing that good work and defining what that would look like going into the future has been a project that has really taken on a team effort with BPS. And we have had so many folks that have worked on this with us. We've worked very closely with Leading and Learning to try to make sure that we are addressing the learning environment, talking to our friends in ET and security to make sure that we're touching those points as well, working with our folks in maintenance, just trying to make sure that we are doing the best we can to provide a very well-rounded approach to the surtax renewal program. And I just wanted to thank all those folks, and here you also see on your screen the work from GCR and a new logo for the surtax renewal, kind of a connection to the past, but also moving towards the future. So it's really been a team effort, and the books that you have in front of you today were a work of sort of an emergency project for our print shop, and I got a hold of Mr. Novelli on Saturday night. I'm like, oh my gosh, we need to print a gazillion copies of this. It truly has been a team effort to put this together for you today. So I'm going to kind of run through this pretty quickly. We started with the surtax in 2014, and this is what's known as Attachment B. This was part of what was presented to the voters back in 2014, and it shows the need at $757 million. $721 million of that is in the facility renewal category. And this kind of gives you the framework of where we started back in 2014. And then this slide shows you that same information and highlighted those things that were not funded with the current surtax. So there's a whole lot of things that in their entirety were not even addressed. So things like interior painting and restroom fixtures and flooring and stairs and a lot of the things that more closely serve our classrooms were not part of the first surtax because we were so focused on making sure that we got our major building systems in much better condition. So this kind of shows you the first framework for the initial surtax. And then this is Attachment A, also part of the initial surtax information, and it shows you of those funded categories that we only addressed condition codes 1 and 2. And in some cases, only condition code 1, meaning we were investing in fixing the worst of the worst. Because we had a pretty dire situation back in 2014 where things were just not working. And so we really had to focus our investments on these building systems to make sure that our buildings were actually functional for learning. So it was a different program than what I'll be presenting for you today. This is the second page of Attachment A that deals with educational technology and also security, and it shows you, again, the things that were funded and the things that were not funded in both of those categories, as well as a whole host of other items that were not included in the 2014 program at all. So this is Attachment C from the 2014 program, and this shows you what was funded. And if you look at this in detail, it was a $198 million program. The missing $10 million is what was allocated to contingency. But if you look at this, you see that a lot of the investment for this, especially in the facility renewal realm, was relative to HVAC and building systems, very heavily oriented in that regard. So the bottom line is that the 2014 sales surtax program really was something that was absolutely needed, and the way it was defined back in 2014 addressed our most critical needs, and it was the right program at the right time. But I do think that there's a misconception about the 2014 program being something where we fixed it and then it's okay and then we're done. This really capital renewal and maintenance is not a point-in-time activity. It's an ongoing activity. So the things that we addressed back in 2015, we've got to be thinking about again in another few years. So the program that you'll see before you has really got two focal points. One is continuing to invest in and reducing the backlog of our deferred maintenance, and then also becoming much more proactive with what we're doing. So it's a little bit different than the worst first type of approach that we had in 2014, and it's also a little bit more broad in that it's addressing some of our other asset categories within the district. So it really is a work in progress, and as we go through the conclusion of this surtax program and move into the next surtax program, you'll kind of see the changing themes and how we're looking at our work. So I feel like I should talk a little bit about why this is important. And for me, there's several things. First is the connection to the learning environment. And our entire department and facilities, we have really changed the way we think. We want to make sure that we are supporting our students and we're supporting leading and learning and student services. That's our mission. All of the other things we do and we need to do, but we really need to think about our focus and our priorities with those things in mind. And so as we started to develop this program, we talked to our friends in leading and learning, and we talked about what do we really need, and we need to look at our classrooms. What do our specific learning environments need to be of better service to our students? And then our typical facilities mission in terms of making sure our building systems work, we had air conditioning down yesterday, and it's not good. It's not good in a COVID environment. It's not good in any environment. So whenever our building systems are down, our teachers, our students, they're distracted if they can learn at all. And so we really need to make sure that we're doing our best to improve the reliability of our building systems. From a financial standpoint, we need to think about preserving our assets. This is really an exercise in asset management and good, sound fiscal stewardship. Letting things deteriorate to the point where they are completely unusable is not good financial stewardship. And so fixing the worst of the worst, part one, but also part two that we're talking about today is doing a little better job of trying to make sure that we are managing our assets better and investing our resources in a way that we don't go off the cliff with the condition of our assets. And then finally, just as a kind of a side benefit of the sales surtax program has been an enormous investment in jobs and in our economy. We've put $200 million into the local economy, and that has a multiplier with a lot of our vendors have local subs. A lot of our vendors are local vendors. Their employees, even if it's not a local firm, their employees live in Brevard County. They spend their money in Brevard County. So we are a huge economic engine, not only with just our employees, but with the investment in capital construction here in the district. It's a huge, huge economic driver. So the sales surtax program is important for several different reasons, and I feel like the continuation of that program, we can become even stronger in these areas. So again, oops, I'm going backwards. Okay. So let me talk about the sales surtax renewal plan. And this is going to move back and forth a little bit awkwardly between the presentation and the document that you have that has a lot of the detail in it. So I'll talk a little bit about the approach first. And what I started with looking at all of the things we need to do. So you have the universe of things you need to do, and what resources do we have available. So the initial part of what resources we have available is the current surtax. So we have been fortunate that our revenues have come in excess of the $198 million program target. And also that we have had some projects come in under budget. So we have some excess resources in the first program that we can put towards needs that have been identified as higher priorities right now. The other thing that's like I'm very proud of and is not completely new but has been evolving is that we have really engaged a data-driven approach for the surtax renewal program. So the board allowed me to invest in a facility assessment project that is really unprecedented. We have an enormous amount of data on the condition of our facilities, and that is the basis for a lot of the facility recommendations for the second renewal plan. That also has led us to have a stronger asset management program. So I could probably tell you how many air handling units we have, whereas 6 years ago, would not have been able to tell you that. And I could tell you what condition they're in and when we need to start to maintain them and replace them. So we're doing a much better job getting ourselves positioned to do better asset management as a result of this initiative. We also did a very thorough classroom assessment. Tony Troisi in the back there volunteered sort of for this assignment, and while he is also managing our facility assessment program, he also went out to the schools and looked at their classrooms, looked at the condition of the floor, looked at the condition of the cabinets, checked the doors to see what they looked like, and was able to give me a very detailed comparative analysis of, for each of these types of systems, what our schools really needed, and our sales surtax renewal plan reflects those needs in the classroom. We've worked with Leading and Learning, and we feel pretty validated that that's where we need to be investing our resources. From security point of view, we had a security assessment. I'll talk more about that this afternoon, but again, very detailed data-driven approach. The security assessment firm made a lot of very specific recommendations, and we were able to use that data to build the security portion of the plan. And then educational technology, our friends in ET have also developed a very detailed plan. There's different ET needs in each school, and they've identified those needs, and those needs are reflected in the plan. And then our folks in maintenance did an athletic facility assessment, and our folks in EH&S also did a playground assessment. So where you see investments in things like track renewal or playground renewal, those are directly reflective of the condition of those assets and the fact that they are part of our asset portfolio, and we really need to invest some resources in preserving or replacing those where they are failing or almost failing. So as I put all this data together, I tried to look at starting with security, prioritizing safety, security, learning environment, and then asset preservation as I moved through the list of possible investments for our surtax renewal program. So starting with revenue, in the 2014 sales surtax program, I'm projecting about $67 million. That is over the $198 million target. We've already allocated about $37 million of that through the ICOC and the school board. The process that we use is when we're tapping into that money, we bring the project to the ICOC. They endorse it or not, and then we bring it to the school board for their approval, typically as part of the contracting process. A lot of that has been allocated for a facility renewal, and we upscoped a lot of our projects this summer because we had a lot of projects where the attachment F for the school was really inadequate to do the air conditioning projects we really needed to do. And so having this extra resources, these allowed us to do better work. So we've allocated about $37 million already. There's about $30 million left. This program recommends about $18 million worth of projects that we're ready to bring to the ICOC next week and then bring back to the board. I've recommended leaving about $12 million kind of on the table because we just don't know where our projections are going. Using about 85% of our 2019 revenue as a benchmark for the current program, but it could be better, it could be worse. So I didn't want to over-program, over-commit. We also have projects, as I said earlier, we're finishing. We have some resources left over. So there's probably going to be another 3 to 5 million that we can put back into projects as well. So feel pretty comfortable on the wrap-up of the 2014 program in that our revenue has been very good, and we've had some good places to invest that money. So I'm going to pause for a minute and try not to make a mess and bring up. This is the first page of your booklet. And if you go to the booklet online, you'll see that it's bookmarked so you can navigate around in here a little bit easier. But I wanted to show you the projections for, I'm sorry, I wanted to show you, this is the first page. Wanted to show you the projections for the 2014 program, as well as how it has been allocated. So if you scroll down and look at this, you can see we're estimating about 67 million. These are estimated numbers, the ones in blue highlight. And these are the lists of projects and investments that we have already made, either through the ICOC process, in many cases also through the board. And then as you get down to the bottom, oops, you'll see the proposed allocation plan. This line, proposed allocation plan, this is reflective of what is in the remainder of the document for use of the current surtax. So those numbers are pretty similar. They're a little bit different because some of them are already up here and have been through the ICOC process. And so that's how we're recommending the allocation of the current surtax. So let me try to navigate back here. So the revenue for the upcoming renewal, we're projecting about $40 million a year to BPS. The total revenue, a little over $280 million. What's new this time around is that charter schools are required by law to receive a share based on their enrollment proportion. So we're estimating starting at about 10%, which is where we left off, and increasing 1% per year. So that provides about $36 million to charter schools, but again, with the COVID environment and uncertainty regarding enrollment, it's really hard to see the crystal ball as to how that might be apportioned, but tried to take a conservative approach so that the program is something that can have a little bit of flexibility if our revenues projections change. So let me go back to the worksheet, and this is the next page in your document. This is actually the projections of the renewal plan. So you see this is the tail end of the 2014 program. We received revenues through February of 2021. The new program would start in March of 2021. And then this, you can see we start with 10% allocated to the charter schools, increasing over time. Total revenue about $281 million, subtracting about 36 for the charter schools. We're in about the 240, 245 range for Brevard Public Schools. So that's how we estimated the revenue that is then used to fund the program that you'll see in a minute. Okay, so mentioned that about $40 million a year to BPS. I've only developed a program that's about $221 million of that. So there's about 19 million that is not programmed. And that was intentional, thinking through what might happen with our revenues. So I didn't want to, again, over-program. The other thing that's different is that this program is defined by year. So if our revenues come in more slowly, we approach the program more slowly. If they come in faster, we can do or if the revenues come in better, we can do the program faster. So it's designed to be flexible given the uncertain revenue environment in which we find ourselves. Another thing that we're working on, or will be working on shortly after the workshop, is to start our procurement processes to get ready for summer 2021. We're typically starting to do some of our work now to get ready for the following summer. And so given that we have some big roof projects and some HVAC projects, we're going to get those set up so that we are prepared in the event that the renewal passes to go forward with work next summer using this resource. So really started developing the plan with the security assessment. That was kind of first. And we looked at elements that could be done with the 2014 sales surtax. And there were a little bit more restrictions on that particular surtax plan. So we couldn't do everything we wanted to do, but some of the elements that were identified by priority 1 in the assessment, we were able to do with current surtax. So you'll see that in the plan. You'll also see that priority 2 and 3 capital and technology elements were programmed with the renewal revenues based on the recommendations coming out of the security assessment. One of the specific things we didn't do is put investments towards systems that we could not support with operational staff or budgets. So those are some things that we can talk about later this afternoon, but some things are funded, some things are not. The big things that are not, that's why. Educational technology came next. So we worked with our folks in ET to give them kind of a target, and they worked with that target and provided their assessment of their needs within that target approach. So we added that on top of the security. Then on the facility side, we took a look at the facility assessment overall, and in analyzing the data, roof renewal was our most significant need, so that kind of came first. Now, we could have spent every single dime of this on roof renewal, but we really wanted to have a little bit more of a comprehensive approach. So I looked at about a $9 to $10 million a year roof renewal program. Then we started to look at the classroom assessments based on Tony's work. And then we wanted to do our building envelope, our preservation, and we felt like paint was really important from a protect the building envelope point of view, and also from an interior paint point of view, very important to our learning environment and to our schools to have their schools be something that their kids and their parents and their teachers and their community can be proud of. So painting came next. Then electrical, that came out of the facility assessment, and then HVAC. I was really proud to see that when we looked at the facility assessment, our HVAC needs were kind of in the moderate range. It was not this big monster number that we had in 2014. So it shows you that the 2014 program really worked. And so I was happy to see those results. But we do have some very targeted investments in HVAC, and some of them are remnants of what we found in the last few years in our projects of things we need to go back and do. Adding some cooling tower refurbishments, maybe need a chiller here or there. So we've got those early on in the plan as much as possible. Then we looked at water and sewer projects, and then other infrastructure needs. So that was the playground assessment, the athletic facility assessments. I made some adjustments to cost estimates based on local conditions and our experience. The typical assessment cost estimate that we got from both of our consulting groups only had direct costs, and so we really needed to account for the other costs that go into building a project. And then again, I left quite a bit unallocated due to our revenue uncertainty. So this is the last switch, and I want to just walk you through a couple of these documents to show you how this is organized in your book. So this is the 4th page in your book. This is kind of the financial overview of the plan. So for each of the 3 categories, shows you what we are spending in current surtax. There's a little piece of capital that's related to security, and that is because there were certain facilities in surtax 1 that did not have a security component, and so therefore we could not fund those types of improvements with surtax 1. So there's a little piece of capital that goes with that as well. And then you see 1 through 6 across the top. These are years. So you see the total investment by year. The lower boxes show you the allocation with security, facility renewal, and educational technology, the distribution across those years. And you see on the right, this is the grand total of all of the funding sources, the renewal, as well as the current surtax and capital. This is the total with just the renewal resources only, so $221 million program out of the renewal. Looked about at about a $240 million total program, and felt like based on the numbers I was seeing that it was prudent to recommend 15% allocation to security, 15% to educational technology, and 70% to facility renewal. And that leaves you a distribution of unallocated revenue of about a little over $1 million in educational technology, a little over $9 million in facility renewal, and a little bit over $8 million in security. And so we may have some additional projects coming our way once we kind of chart a path forward in security, and we have revenue reserved to do that, assuming the revenue estimates are valid. So the next piece of this document, this is the investment plan by group. So you can see at the top you have security. These are the different security components that relate to the security assessment. In educational technology, you see the different components of the educational technology plan, and you can see how those investments are recommended across time. Similarly, with facility renewal, you see the different components of facility renewal. So for example, if you look at classroom cabinets, in year 1, there's $864 million, year 2, $1,152,000, et cetera. So it gives you a sense of the components of the program, what we're doing first, second, and third, as well as the total for the renewal work. And you see the big number here is under roof renewal, $67 million. So that's our big facility investment. The next set of pages, there's 6 or 7 pages. This is the renewal plan just summarized by facility. So you can kind of see for each facility what the investment in security, educational technology, and facility renewal would be. Quick reference document. Those schools that have kind of big numbers under facility renewal is generally indicative of a roof project. And then starting on page 13, it shows you the facility renewal plan in more detail, because we had a lot more categories in facility renewal. So it shows you for each element what schools are planned to receive those elements and when schools would receive those elements over time. So you can look and see who's on deck to get flooring and approximately what year of the program flooring would happen for those schools. In prioritizing this, we also worked with Leading and Learning to invest more quickly in our priority schools where we could do that. And that was kind of a focus area as well. So some of the prioritization of the classroom elements, you'll see earlier in the program, a higher level of investment in our priority schools. And then the last piece of this is the remaining 104 pages. Each facility has its own page. And these are bookmarked so you can scroll through the documents. And if you want to see, for example, what the plan is for Audubon Elementary, you simply click on that, on the bookmark for Audubon, and it shows you each of the groups as well as the detail that each school is receiving in the year in which it is planned. So you'll be able to kind of look at any of our facilities. This is Cocoa High School, for example. It shows you our investments in Cocoa High School. You can see there's a big roof project in year 5. So it allows you to look at, by school, what investments are planned for each school. So getting back to our presentation, this summarizes the recommended allocation by sort of significant element. So you can see there's a 30% of the programs about roof renewal, 13% secure educational technology and security, 10% classroom renewal. So you can kind of see how the priorities were laid out in terms of a percentage of the total program as well. You have a bigger handout that has this in more detail, but this is the summary. I also thought it was important to show you the summary of the facility assessment data. This is the consultant's work, and this is everything. So out of everything they assessed in all of our 100 and something facilities, their recommendation over a period of 11 years is we need an investment of $541 million. And keep in mind, that's only direct costs. And when I did the renewal plan for things like roofs, I multiplied by 1.5 to make sure we covered those other indirect costs. Electrical 1.5, plumbing multiplied by 3 based upon the experience that we've had with the few plumbing projects we've done under Surtax 1. And then also keep in mind, in some cases, there are recommendations to evaluate. So that might be a $20,000 study that leads to a $2 million project. So it's very inclusive, it's very detailed. We have a couple 100-page book for each school. And we're working on modifying our processes to make sure that we are keeping track of what we do. So when we did our summer projects this year, Tony worked with our project managers and Dave Lindemann's shop to kind of account for if we replaced a chiller and it's recommended to be replaced, we pick that up in the assessment. So this is a living, breathing document that will guide our work going into the future. And we're excited about the potential of seeing some of these numbers come down as a result of our investments. What this doesn't cover is if we are building something new. So they're assessing the chiller plant as we have it today. If we add a new chiller, it doesn't necessarily pick up that new chiller because it's not physically there today. But our team is kind of working on how we can account for all of the changes that we're making, both with our current Surtax program. With our maintenance activities, we pick up a lot of these recommendations as just part of normal work orders. And then, of course, with our renewal plan as well. So this kind of gives you the big picture from a facility point of view.
Sue?
Yes, sir.
Can I interrupt you for just a moment? Because I think it's
Sure.
worthy, at the moment you're talking about the facility assessment. You talked about books and handouts and printouts and that sort of thing, but this is simply a moment in time of the assessment. It's not the work into the future. So the actual assessment, it was all done digitally, and we can input data every day, every week, every month of work and renewal that's being done in our facilities. And at any moment in time in the future, we can print out new books that reflect current to-date data versus where we've been in the past, which was, well, I'm not sure we knew exactly what the status of all of our facilities were. So I know the board has seen, I'm saying it for the benefit of the public, the workbook or the data book that comes out of every facility assessment is triple-digit number of pages, but it just gives you a glimpse of what the depth of the data is that we have captured now and can maintain going forward. So it's not work that has been done once in futility. It is now set a new benchmark for us moving forward.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. And just kind of to add on to that concept, we also have a tiger team approach. When we finish an assessment, we bring together several representatives of the facilities team, and we go through all of the recommendations kind of one by one and say, okay, this is a project, this is a maintenance item, this is a work order, this is something we're never going to do. And we give, and everybody owns the results of this assessment and has a responsibility to follow through. And so we've got a pretty good system going now, and we're all learning and becoming accustomed to a new way of work, but it's made us a much stronger organization, and we have much better data on which to base our decisions going forward.
And I think it goes to say, Dr. Mullins, I'm sorry, Madam Chair, I didn't wave you. The amount of money that we will save in preventative asset management through this system is amazing. Not many people know what goes on behind your walls inside of a school and the amount of money that it costs, but being able to purchase things in bulk based on preventative assets and everything else is amazing. Like, this is truly revolutionary. I know, we don't get too excited about a lot of different stuff, but I'm excited about this. And the reason is that this is ahead of, I think, the surrounding municipalities and many of our other school boards in the fact that we are able to now preemptively find out where our issues may be and order those parts at a discount that it might be when we have to order them at an emergency, right? And we won't have our teachers in so many bad situations that we've had in the past, and we won't have issues with fire alarms or our intercom systems and everything else, because we can effectively manage our assets. So I just wanted to give you a big plug, Sue. I know you're going to go through all the stuff, but I'm really
Thanks.
excited about this.
Yeah, we're catching up, and hopefully we'll be able to make that leap from reactive maintenance to preventative maintenance. And that's a big push in our maintenance department. It's going to take us a while to get there, but that's the goal, is to really move towards preventative maintenance as our main focus versus just simply reactive maintenance. So you all have seen this slide before. This is just an industry standard about the level of investment that is recommended for proper maintenance and operation, preventative maintenance, renewal, replenishment of our facility assets. And so based on those industry standards, you can see there's really a huge amount of investment that we could be making in facilities. And so the sales tax renewal is an integral part of doing better. I know you may have noticed the unicorn on the bottom, and that's, I understand that our facility department is not going to get $140 million a year for facility maintenance, but what we do get, we have good places and data-driven analysis that helps us invest those resources wisely. So we are excited about moving the needle in facilities and being stronger in terms of our asset management program. So again, just to kind of bring us back to reality, the surtax impact in facilities is about $28 million a year. We have a lot of good places to put that. Security and educational technology, about $6 million each per year. If we were to just look at our capital resources that go to those activities, that's about what's recommended in the FY21 budget. So you can see on the facility side, it's a quarter of what we have in renewal, and it's even a smaller percent of what we could do in terms of making sure that we invest appropriately in preventative maintenance for our facilities. So, is this important? And I felt like I wanted to show you some of these slides because the public maybe doesn't really know. I don't know. I'm the person in charge of facilities. I haven't been to every science lab, so sometimes I get a rose-colored glasses perspective on what our facilities might look like out there. And so I wanted to show these pictures so that people could really see that this is what's in our schools now. So when we say we need to upgrade our science labs, it's not to create Bell Labs, it's to make sure that our students have a reasonable and appropriate learning environment for the work that they're doing. So these are just a few more pictures and to show you some of our cabinetry. When you look at your facility assessment and you see cabinets, $800,000, I did. I had this reaction. I was like, seriously, Tony, $800,000 for cabinets? Are you kidding? It's a huge investment, but it's a huge thing for our students too. It's an important investment for our students.
I was just going to say, Ms. Han, when I opened the book, one of the first things I looked for was Sea Park cabinets. So I love that you included a picture of Sea Park cabinets. Those are the original cabinets. The school is it was just 60 years, right, Dr. Mullins, that we went there?
60
last year?
years as of last year.
Those are the original
Yes.
60-year-old cabinets. So thank
Yeah.
you for including those.
Yeah, so you're welcome. And I just wanted to make sure that everybody got their head wrapped around what we're really talking about in terms of our classroom conditions and where we need to invest these resources.
Ms. Han, I also had another anomaly that I thought you might enjoy. You know how you have dog years as far as years, right?
Yeah.
Well, we have student years. So when people look back and they say, let's look back, 60 years, I've got my cabinet sitting in here. Well, they don't have 1,000 kids a year pounding away at that cabinet. So one of the other things is we have student years, like we have dog years. So some of these programs, they may be 60 years old, but they're actually 300 years old because of the way that our students wear them out every day. So I just
Yes.
wanted to kind of point that out, that when we're talking about these things, that might be something that people look into. What? Did I just create a new meme or something?
You may
I
have.
think you did.
All right. But anyways, just thought that I'd throw that out there.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Mr. Susan. That's a very valid point. I've had to learn that coming into the school industry, that things don't last as long for a variety of reasons. There's a lot of wear and tear.
If you have a need for a test group, I've got a couple of kids at my house that bang my stuff, so they'll just bring
Well,
them in.
just
For the
bring it
new
over.
furniture, if you need test kit, we're ready to go.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So for me, failure is not an option. Like, this is really important work. It's important to our students, it's important to our families, our community. The investments that we make are important to our economy, to our jobs. What we are doing here is really important work. And so, our team embraced this assignment. I think our entire district team embraced this assignment. We have folks working across divisional lines to just make sure that we're doing our very best on the current program. And I have to just pause and say how proud I am of our project management team, because they have executed this program really, really well. And in partnership with ET and security, the reason that I can stand before you today and say I feel very confident that we can execute the renewal program so well is because we've executed the first program really well, and that's been validated by our Citizens Oversight Committee and validated by our auditors. So I feel like we're in a very good place, and that we have more work to do, and we are ready and excited about doing it. So our next steps, would like to hear some feedback from the board about the content of the plan. My intention is to take this to the ICOC in August 19th, that'd be next week, and kind of roll through this with them. They've been very engaged in Surtax 1 and are very interested in what our plan is for Surtax 2. And then based on their feedback and your feedback, we would initiate some policy development, particularly around the distribution of funds, so the 15, 70, 15 type of recommendation we bring back to you. We're going to need to do some administrative procedures around how we allocate funds to charter schools and what that process looks like, so we'll have to be working through those types of things. So that's kind of our next steps and what we would bring back to the board. And then in parallel, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to get started on some of our procurement solicitations for roof renewal, security, and just get set up for success for next summer. So those are kind of the next steps. I just feel like we're in a challenging time, but we're also in a time of great opportunity. Like, we can really do some great things out in the community with a renewal project, and I'm proud of where we are today and excited about the opportunity to further the progress that we've made. And then I just wanted to bring up our Employee of the Year and say thank you to the board and Dr. Mullins, as well as to all of my coworkers on cabinet that have been so supportive of this program, and to the teams that have done the work. So thank you, and happy to take questions.
Thank you so much, Ms. Han. Your team, ET, security, everyone really has done such a phenomenal job on this. And having been involved with the Strive for Surtax 1, I felt like there was a good plan there, but this is just leaps and bounds beyond what we were able to offer our community in Surtax 1 as far as detail and information. And I'm so appreciative of your constant focus on how your role impacts our students' learning and health and welfare and well-being. And I just can't say enough how much I appreciate that perspective in going into this. And you didn't say it directly, but looking at those doors and those cabinets that have been there for 60 years, that makes for an unhealthy environment in our classrooms as well. I mean, over those 60 years, we've had leaks and we've had different things like that have taken place, and they're difficult to clean. And so it truly is critical that we can start to address some of these situations in our classrooms, and I thank you for putting together the plan. Other board members, questions, comments?
Thank you, Sue. This is so great. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Just one question. If we have detailed questions of why something may not have made it that we think maybe should have made it, just come to you separately and ask maybe, I'm sure there's good reasons and explanations, but
Okay.
I just see a few things that I would think would be on the list for some of my schools, and I,
Okay.
thanks.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I just want to say the beginning of your speech, Ms. Han, was perfect. Because I think some of the times when we talk about the sales surtax and all that stuff, we talk about, air conditionings and everything else, and we just kind of lose the fact of who we are and what we do. And I think that when we look at the why here, not many people understand that we pay close to $40 million in debt that offsets our capital every year. Is the main reason why we have to go out to a surtax was because of growth and things that people prior to us made decisions on incurring debt. You hit it on the head. We are the largest economic driver in this county, bar none. Between the people that we employ, both with our people inside of our employees and the other people that we employ, both our contractors. I mean, when you go to the new school that we were building out there off of impact fees, there was close to 300 people that were subcontractors and workers just on that one site. Then you start looking at all 86 sites that we have stuff going on, because it's not just chillers, it's also intercom systems and data and communications and computers. And I mean, we are everywhere. And this is a massive economic driver for our entire community, to the point where it affects our overall economic stimulus and everything inside of our county. So we miss that so many times because we're educators and we come across as trying to teach rather than, collaboratively explain and pitch. I can't tell you, I found something the other day that was phenomenal. Yesterday, after we met, Sue went over this with me and it was awesome. But I didn't realize how strong a workforce within a local community drives the GDP for that local community. It's amazing. There's a study that they did in Minnesota, and they're replicating it across, that a strong education K through 12 system, educating their people with the proper processes and workforces, actually attributes to the GDP of not only that local area, but the cities or the state and then nationally. It's a phenomenal thing. So I think when people sit back and they say, they question this little thing or that little thing, they don't really see what we are. And we are the largest economic driver, and I wanted to say thank you for saying that in the beginning. And I wanted to say thank you for everything that you've done. I mean, from soup to nuts, just like Chairperson Belford was saying, all the way from the audits, the perfect audits, not just audits, the perfect audits, all the way from the Citizens Oversight Committee. We all know having citizen oversight committees, how crazy they can be, right? But you did perfect. Like, they are all, this is the greatest thing in the world. We don't have that on a lot of them. I'm just really happy with the product that you've created, with what you've brought forward with us, and I just wanted to give you a shout out for that.
Thank you.
That's it.
If we're going to be just chatting a little bit about the need for this, since I'll piggyback off what Mr. Susan said and just remind everybody of the conversation a few weeks ago on this, and that 62% of our schools are over 50 years old. I think that we need to keep reminding people of that, because that speaks volumes right there. And then it also jumped out at me that you're projecting about $40 million a year revenue, I believe. Is that what I just read in here? Our debt payment that we pay out of capital funds every year from choices that boards before any of us were on the board made is $40 million a year. So the justification for the sales tax, to me,
That's actually perfect.
is
You couldn't explain it better.
Ms. Deskovich, I think at that moment, our public needs to understand that we don't realize relief from the debt payment until 2032. We're 12 years away from the relief of that debt payment. So, and this is for 6 years. Thank you for mentioning that.
Yeah, I keep saying 2031, but I will now speak better and say 2032. Either way, it's still a long way away, unfortunately. I know that there are people that say once we have a tax, we're never going to let it go. Well, it's not that we're never going to let it go, but boards before us put us in a position till 2032 where unless something changes at the state funding level or something of that nature, I don't know how it would be fiscally irresponsible to not maintain our facilities. So thank you.
Ms. McDougall?
Well, Sue, your whole department knocked it out of the ballpark, so thank you very much. I really like the detail, school by school. You and I were talking earlier. Do you want to wait, and do I want to bring it up now, or? Ms. Hannah and I were talking, and I'm one of several schools that has the open concept. So Anderson has the bookcase walls. And I just want to make sure that we don't forget about that, because I think that's important for that school. When I went there, the teachers, all they ever wanted was walls. So I would like us to not forget about them.
Okay. I will touch base with Ms. Klein and Dr. Sullivan and make sure that we pick up any of our schools that have open concepts and look at where we need to put walls in. That typically can be expensive because you've got to deal with fire suppression, air conditioning, and all those other things, but this is a good opportunity to retrofit those classrooms, and I missed that in the assessment, so we'll take a look.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hand. Ms. Campbell, did you want to say anything?
Absolutely, I've got a couple things. You actually already hit on one of my questions, which I wrote down, which is the facilities assessment, is it ongoing? And the answer is yes, and so we'll be able to update as we get there. We might have things that were already fixed or things that are worse. So I think that is an excellent use of our resources. Can you give me, you talked about indirect costs, and just for the non-construction people of us, can you give an example of what the indirect costs are?
Sure. Almost all of our projects that are on the facility side are projects that require design, permitting. We have project managers and project staff, our project accountants, our project administrators. All of the sort of costs to a project that are not directly you're buying a chiller. It's all of the things that go with what it takes to figure out where the chiller goes, what size the chiller is, that type of thing.
So everything besides the materials and the labor directly.
So the sub cost and the labor is kind of the
Okay.
direct cost, and then everything else that it would take to stand up a project. But
Got it.
for example, in the ET world, the cabling projects have those types of indirect costs, but if you're buying student devices and things like that, it's just a one-to-one cost. So they're much more close to the exact cost of the widget, so to speak, whereas on the facility side, we've got a lot of those indirect costs as well that we have to account for.
Gotcha. And then, this is, where was that page? Mr. Cheatham, under the educational technology side, one of the things was student information system. I think it was $2 million we're using with the current, I think I might have asked you this before, but what is that?
So it's currently our AS400 system. Our focus gradebook is a component of a student's information
Mr.
system.
Cheatham, we can't hear you.
Hello, hello.
There we go.
All right.
Just closer.
Gotcha. The focus gradebook, that's a component of a student information system.
Okay.
Other than that, our current AS400 system is our student information system. We saw this as an opportunity, just given with everything we're dealing with the COVID pandemic. Additional badging, attendance, contact tracing, communication. There's so many other items that a new SIS system will assist us with as we continue to deal with the current realities.
So we get rid of AS400?
We start that process.
What year is that?
That's right now. Let's get going.
We hope to.
But $2 million seems a little small.
It's where we are.
So, so if I'm understanding, so we're maybe can address the student side of it.
Correct.
Is what you're saying, not
Correct.
the other side of it, which is
Just the student
the
information
student
system.
side
Correct.
of it. Okay.
That's not the business side, is what I think.
Right. So we're still stuck with AS400 for some things, but we can start.
We can
With some
start
better
making
options.
that move. Correct.
Yay. Okay.
Ms. Campbell, on that thread, can I just say that one of the positive things to AS400 is that the computer hackers have no idea what it is. So as you look at these other school districts that are getting hacked and they're coming at us and they're
They've never
taking all their
seen DOS
data,
before. They're
the hackers look at it and say, "What is this?" They have no idea. Green screens and
Right.
DOS, yeah.
Right.
So just don't knock the old AS400.
It is one of the safest systems in the world.
There it is. There it is.
So I think some things that I've highlighted, I do have another question, I'm going to save it for last, but I think some things that highlighted for me in this that I think our public really needs to know is one, that everything is based on assessments and data and good assessments. I mean, everything you went through is, we've gone through all of our things from, you know, from A to Z and seen what really needs to be fixed. And then the other thing is that we have already been, because of the excess, you know, the beyond the goal, because the economy was so good, you know, we were able to collect with the first sales tax, you know, the 67 million that we're projecting over. And if the economy hadn't tanked, we might have even been a little better than that. For those, you know, this time with COVID, but we've been able to make some better choices. You know, for example, you know, because it's, you know, my area has been, you know, the chillers behind the meadow lanes. You know, one of the things when I was doing the walkthrough of those buildings is, you know, knowing that we're short on manpower resources, right? They're putting in a system that not only is more efficient, which is better in the long term for our power bills and things like that, it also is going to require less maintenance. And so we know that we just don't have a lot of people to go around. So if we have a system that can maintain itself and we don't have to have people in there all the time, you know, doing things to it, that is a better system for us. Because without the manpower to take care of it, it's just going to deteriorate more quickly and be a greater cost later. So we're able to make those better choices. And I think what you're talking about here, making those better choices on all of our systems wide, so that it's something that we can sustain with the people that we have and the resources that we have in the long run. So those are things that I think the public really needs to know. We're not talking about building, you know, the school that the Jetsons, you know, had on, you know, but we're talking about something that is good and sustainable for our children. So here's my question, and we don't have to dwell on this for very long, but what happens if the surtax doesn't pass?
Sue, can I jump in there?
Please do.
And listen, I'm an optimist, and I'm going to work my tail off to get there, because I think,
Well,
know,
I'm
we're-
writing myself some notes because I wanted to ask Madam Chair if I could, is it okay if I take a moment?
Absolutely.
And I appreciate the lead in, Ms. Campbell, because we're very proud of the satisfaction, the exemplary endorsement we've received from our independent community oversight committee as a result of the admirable work of our facilities team, who has ensured that we have stayed on budget, on time, and met all of the criteria that has led to exemplary audits. Very proud of that. That's important. That stages us for reliability, credibility in our community. We've talked about the data-driven approach that we have taken to the next level in preparation for the future, and we're really launching facilities into the 21st century, and that's what we should be doing. We've talked about the reinvestment the surtax has been in our own local economy. It's undeniable. But none of those three things, either individually or collectively, should we allow to eclipse what is the essential element driving us coming to our community and saying, we're at a place that a renewal of the surtax is not dependent on any one of those three things as much as it is on the necessity to meet the facility renewal needs of our facilities. $2 billion in assets, 13 million square feet of air-conditioned space. And I'll put it into, I think, you correct me, Sue, you help me, in the easiest context I can. Sue, if you'll go back to the slide that is reality, please. I don't know, maybe 8 slides earlier. This slide, reality, if you look at the right-hand column, that is our capital budget for 2021. The slide before this one identified industry standard for our type of industry. 2 to 3% should be spent on annual maintenance and operation facility renewal. That's in the $40 to $60 million range. which we've been able to manage with the surtax. If surtax goes away, now go to the next slide, we're back to the capital budget we have for facilities, which is $7.4 million. Now, our community may think $7.4, $7.5 million, we should be able to do something with that. Why do we have a need for a sales tax? Well, I go to the data-driven assessment, the line item of $67, $68 million just needed in the next 6 years for roofs. We can't do without roofs. We can't put those off. We can't delay. They have to be done. That $7.4 million will be completely allocated to roofs for the next 9 years to meet what really is a next 6-year necessity just to cover roofs. Not taking care of HVAC, not taking care of electrical, not taking care of the plumbing, and doing nothing in classroom renewal or upgrade, cabinets, interior, exterior paint, water barriers, and so on. So Ms. Campbell, I think I'm getting to, your question. The reality is if the surtax goes away, this long list of things we should be doing will become an absolute critical, we'll only do that which comes to us at failure. And we will be looking at technology budgets and reallocating them to facility needs, because we can do without a computer that's 7 years old, and instead of making them 3 years old, we'll have to deal with them being 7 and 8 years old so that we have roofs and we have plumbing and we have electrical. We will be postponing or delaying security investments because we can't do with outdated, undependable and dangerous electrical systems in our schools. We have to renew them. So if we don't renew the sales tax, we will be, and I'm not an alarmist, but we will be in a dire situation to be back to repair at failure circumstances, and all of any consideration of anything other than repair at failure will be off the table until additional revenue becomes a reality. And that's not a reality in our current budget forecast for the next 10 to 12 years. So.
And that's how we got in the situation that we were
Correct.
in to begin with. No, I thank you, because I just think we need to talk about that. And I know we don't want to sit here even and think about how this list gets pared down to a tiny piece of what is needed if it doesn't pass. I echo the thoughts of Mr. Susan and Ms. Deskovich when I think about our debt. It's just unbelievable, the $400 million of debt and the payment that we have to make. But listen, in fact, I just this last week had to pull up, I took a picture of, I had to go find an old budget, our CAFR book, to figure out what were the schools. But now, listen, I'm not excited that previous boards saddled us with $400 million of debt, but when I think about the population explosion, I went back and looked and okay, we would not have a high school in the entire city limits of Palm Bay, which is our largest city in the county, because Palm Bay High School was it, and it's not in Palm Bay. So the entire city of Palm Bay would not have a high school. We would not have a school in Viera, because Viera didn't exist as the city that it is. We would not have a school in Viera if we didn't have, that's what kind of population explosion we were having at the time during that, when the debt was being, and West Side, a couple other elementary schools, Longleaf. So, and a great number of additions because our population exploded during that time. So I understand why they did it, but that is a really big part of why we are where we are. And, this is so important. And honestly, I really think that it says something that 5 board members who don't always come at things with the same perspective and come from different political and career backgrounds in different parts of our county are all in unison when we say what a great need we have for this sales tax renewal. And I hope our community are listening and seeing what great things you guys have done and what great things you have planned and what it's going to mean for the schools, even if it's not for their children or their relatives who might be working in our schools, what it will mean for our community, because they certainly are going to have those schools in their community that they're going to drive by and see, you know, what great shape they'll be in and what good things they're doing. So thank you so much, and that's all I got.
Thank you, Ms. Campbell. And we haven't talked about it much because we're obviously going into a closed session to discuss the security aspects, just because that's sensitive information we don't want our public to know. But I do think that our public needs to know that we had our security assessment done. And while right now we're all focused on getting back into school and COVID and health concerns, when we do get back into school, our concerns about safety and security in our schools have not gone away. And while we have done, I personally think in Brevard County, we've done a phenomenal job of addressing security up to this point, we still have work to do there as well, based on professional analysis of our current situation. And so I just don't want our community to lose sight of that either in the considerations for sales tax. So thank you, Ms. Han, for all of the information, for all of the hard work. I know even this weekend you were emailing back and forth, and I know you have worked long and hard to bring all of this together for us, along obviously with the rest of the team. So we are very appreciative of each and every one of you.
Hey, Ms. Belford, I think Ms. Han mentioned earlier, I know that the public, if they're following on with their agenda, they don't have the nice full color large version that we have, but this is available on the agenda. But you mentioned that there's going to be a website live coming up where people can look at their own school and say, here's what's going to plan on being done.
Yes, thank you so much for reminding me about that. We've been working, our team and GCR, and we should have a sales surtax dedicated web page. Well, I don't know what the right word is, web page, similar to kind of the COVID page where you go there and all the resources are there regarding the sales surtax renewal. So we wanted to kind of get through the workshop and discuss it with the board, but we're pretty much ready for that to be live relatively soon. So in the next week or so, I think, Sarah, we should probably have that ready to roll.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, may I make one more acknowledgement? I know they're sitting over, Tony has been, Sue, if you don't mind, you did it one shout out, but I don't think that we can do it enough. Tony, I know you led the team to do the assessment and to make it real and live and ongoing. Dave, I know you have been instrumental in that as well. And I think it's worthy to note, that's not with additional staff that we took on this assessment. Sue does a phenomenal job of rallying the team around the priorities and what needs to be done, and I don't know, finds a way to get blood out of a turnip. But it's a great testament to the teamwork that's come together to make this happen. So gentlemen, appreciate your hard work, and I know there's layers of folks along with them. Jenny is over on this side. She is the master of managing many things. So Sue, appreciate your leadership to direct the team and to support them and set them up for success and to lead us in the direction we need to go. So thank you.
All right. There being no further questions at this point, we are going to, as referenced in the beginning of the meeting, recess from this public meeting to have our security conversation outside of the public, and then we will reconvene back in this room to publicly adjourn the meeting. And we are resuming our workshop for this afternoon after having come from our closed-door security discussion. Does any board member have any additional discussion for our workshop topics this afternoon?
Yeah, I brought up some topics I'd like to bring up.
Mr. Susan?
I'm just kidding.
Are you
Thank
kidding?
you.
Thank you, Madam
Okay.
Chair.
All right, seeing no further business, this meeting is now adjourned. We'll see you at 5:30.
Desker.